Now, the Emirates Airline Filly and Mare Turf, including the defending champion in here, Midday, who is the 8-5 favorite in the early line by Brad Free. Harmonious, trained by John Sheriff, surprisingly. Again, you got a California guy here with Brad. 4-1, Eclair de Lune, the winner of the Beverly D at 6-1. Red Desire from Japan at 8-1. Plumania. Plumania, however, is expected to run.
Yep.
She is expected to run. She has second preference in the turf. Red Desire also has second preference against the boys in the turf. So from what we can project at this point, this is the likely starting lineup that you're looking at now on the screen. To me, the high-priced horse in that list would be, if I have to pick at Brad at all, would be Miss Keller at 12-1, because I think she's looked pretty good in some of her races. But my top five, of course, has got to be headed by the defending champion Midday. Plumania gave Midday all she could handle when they ran against each other in Europe. And this is just one of those situations where I think, and we discussed this earlier, I think the North American female turf horses are a little subpar this year. So therefore, I think the Europeans have a great chance of coming in and dominating this, and that's why I've got the Europeans 1 and 2 on my list.
Well, my 1-2 is the same as yours. This is a race where, while I don't think Midday is by any means a lock, I do think I would be very surprised if either Midday or Plumania, one of those does not win. I think it's their race to lose. And yes, 2 races back, Plumania just 3/4 of a length behind Midday in the Prix Vermeil, but turned in a clunker in the Arc, but plenty of horses have thrown in clunkers in the Arc and come back to run here just fine in the Breeders' Cup. So to me, it's between those two, and you know, good luck figuring who's going to top the American group.
And if you want to get a good idea of how strong the form was in that race at Longchamp 2 races back, the Prix Vermeil, you had Midday winning it by 3/4 of a length. You had Plumania finishing second. Third in that race was Serafina, who then comes back in her next start and finishes third in the Arc. So that was indeed a very strong race. If Plumania can bounce back off of that Arc performance on very soft turf, incidentally, then she ought to run pretty well. And of course, the Wertheimers and Andre Fabre have a very good record bringing horses to the United States and doing well with them. But we are in agreement that the Europeans certainly look the best.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch the Arc, maybe it's academic because she's not entered, but Serafina, you could make a case she should have won the Arc based on the traffic trouble she had in the stretch. She was almost knocked over, and that's a horse that Midday and Plumania were right with.
Visually, Harmonious was very impressive.
Yes.
When she won the QE2. I had some questions about the quality, obviously the 3-year-old filly quality that she was running against. She also had a very good trip in there, sitting second behind a runaway pace setter. It's just about the best kind of trip that a turf horse can get. But when you look at this race, there's very little speed in here. Eclair de Lune has got a little speed, but you sort of, shared account, not really. I mean, she's got some speed if they go 51 for the first half. There's just not a whole heck of a lot of pace in here, and Harmonious is going to be right up there mixing it up near the front end, which might not be the way she wants to run.
Yeah, I think Plumania or Plumania, whatever we've decided to call her today,
I'm guessing.
In her good races, she tends to sit close. In that Arc, when she just didn't fire whatsoever, she was way back. I think she'll at least have first run on Midday. Whether that carries the day, we'll see. But maybe the pace scenario you just brought up would play slightly in Plumania's favor.
Who's under the radar?
Under the radar, I'm trying to think of come up with a horse who's going to run third behind the combo of Plumania and Midday, who I think both have a strong chance to win. My under the radar horse is going to be Kirtana, who neither of us has mentioned thus far. Kirtana was kind of a garden variety American turf horse, liked to sit near the pace. And then all of a sudden, 3 races ago, the light switch seemed to go on with this horse. They also, perhaps not coincidentally, decided to start taking her back more severely. She should have won the De La Rose. She had a very tough trip in that race. She was powerful in the Glens Falls, which, again, not incidentally, her only race at 1 3/8, the distance of this filly and mare turf. And the Flower Bowl is the race, her most recent effort, that's going to kind of throw some people off the scent. But to me, that Flower Bowl, which also had Red Desire in there, was kind of a funky, goofy race. I mean, you had Ave, the pace was extraordinarily slow, the course was soft, it was a complete blanket finish. It's one of those races that, rightly or wrongly, I'm willing to forgive anyone who was in it. And going back to the 2 races prior for Kirtana, I could see her coming at the end. I do think she'll be closing at the end, and I can see her getting a check.
Once again, we've sort of ignored a past winner of this race trained by Jonathan Shepard, Forever Together. Shepard happens to be one of my favorite trainers, but in this case also, as was the case with Informed Decision. I just think that this filly maybe is not quite as good now, certainly, as she was a couple of years ago when she won this race. Her last, again, it was in that funky race where you don't really know what to think. If I'm not mistaken, she didn't run in the Flower Bowl. She was 6th out of 7, beaten 13 lengths. But even before that, she was 3rd behind Kirtana. So it looks like she's not quite
Plus,
in top form.
A couple of years ago, Randy, she closed like a machine coming around the turn, and she just had, whereas a lot of grass horses have an 1/8 of a mile kick, she seemed to have like a 1/4 mile kick, and we just haven't seen that. It seemed to gradually drop off last year, and it seems to have diminished further this year. Nice to see her win, but it's hard to be confident in her off her recent races.
How's CW doing, by the way? You heard anything from CW?
No,
lately?
come on back, CW.
No,
Anybody,
CW.
you're welcome to ask questions, and Randy will even answer a couple of them here on the air.
Or Eric. CW is MIA right now. All right.